With the 11th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Chicago Bulls select Zach Edey from the University of Purdue. This comes on the heels of a hypothetical mock draft report that has the Chicago Bulls taking Zach Edey at the 11th pick in the draft. We're going to be talking about what this could possibly mean for the Chicago Bulls and what are some other potential fits at the 11th pick in this upcoming draft. This is Rico Greenhowe with Bulls Digest. And before we jump into it, want to let you know that 84.8% of you guys that watch the video are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with your latest news and happenings of your Chicago Bulls. And without further ado, guys, let's jump into the first part of the video here, which is Zach Edey to the Chicago Bulls. And so this comes on the heels of a mock draft report. I believe that it is No Ceilings is the name of this particular mock draft. And it has the Chicago Bulls selecting Zach Edey at number 11. And if you're not familiar with Zach Edey, he was the player of the year in college basketball. He is a 7'4", 300-pound, center that played for the University of Purdue. He obviously went to the national championship with Purdue, was beaten by UConn. And here's a guy that essentially was a terror in college basketball. He was elite in his post-ups, and he was absolutely elite on the boards and his shot blocking ability. And so this is what this article had to say, and perhaps why the Chicago Bulls would want to go ahead and take a serious look at Zach Edey at number 11. All right, so it says this offseason is an important one for the Chicago Bulls as they look to shake up their roster and move forward past their current core, which Arturas Karnisovas finally admitted isn't working. As they plan for the future, the 2024 NBA Draft will provide them a chance to add young talent. In No Ceilings' latest mock draft, they have the Bulls selecting Purdue center Zach Edey with the 11th pick. Edey may not seem like a traditional home run swing, but for a team like Chicago that wants to stay competitive, Edey's unique talents and tools could fit their play style and give them a weapon X of sorts, Corey Telebus wrote. The 7'4" big man lost in the national championship to UConn this past season. His last 2 years with the Boilermakers were nothing short of dominant. Some questions whether or not he'll be effective at the NBA level, but Talupa believes the Bulls can afford to take on the unique style of play. All right, guys, so a lot to unpack there, and I think a terrific article here is this No Ceilings mock draft. One of the things, that they point out in this particular draft and why you would want to take Zach Edey is the fact that he has a 7'10" wingspan, and that 7'10" wingspan could be very effective, especially in the drop coverage. In drop coverages, that's where your big man's falling back, and that's going to make it tough for guards to pretty much go downhill on you. I think that that's going to cause a lot of confusion at the rim where guards are trying to obviously finish, get those floaters off and things like that. So certainly he's going to help the interior part of the defense. He obviously is a terrific rebounder, and he is an absolute terrific shot blocker as well. The one thing that I will say about Edey that I do like here is that his stamina has gotten better. All right. So he's being able to run up and down the court for long periods of time. So you don't have to worry about that as far as being able to get into a situation where a team is running up and down the floor. So I like that about him. And, the one question about him is his fluidity, pretty much how fluid he can be on the defensive end as far as, turning his hips, moving his feet and stuff like that, and drop coverages and things like that. So I think that he showed that he can potentially grow a little bit more there. It wasn't terrible. I think that I had a chance to look at him extensively in that national championship game, and I thought he did a terrific job guarding Donovan Clegan for the most part. I think that he did a great job in shifting and getting back to him and still still contesting at the rim. So if you think that you're going to put him in a lot of pick and rolls and it's going to be a mismatch, you know, I'm not necessarily sure about that. And I think that he's going to be able to get better at the NBA level. Now, the one thing that I will say for him, if you're wanting to pick him up for the Chicago Bulls and why this makes sense, I think a lot of us felt like when Andre Drummond started for us, I felt like we were a lot better basketball team. We were a lot more physical. We punished the boards and we attacked the basket a little bit better. Now, this could hypothetically work, I think, if somehow, some way that we go ahead and we get rid of Vooch, because I think that you can basically say that with the statistics that Vooch put up this year, he certainly digressed. And I will say right alongside with a lot of people that, you know, Vooch and the physicality, it was not there. You can look at really what the Miami Heat were able to do in that last game in the play-in. Everybody was getting rebounds, you know, so that's one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're not going to play physical and you're not knocking down shots for me, you know, what exactly are you doing? And he's not necessarily commanding a whole bunch of attention on the block. Now, I think this is something where Edey and his skill set, he absolutely would be able to take advantages of mismatches on the block. And especially now with the way defenses are played, a lot of switching and things like that, I feel like Edey absolutely would be able to take advantage on the box. The one problem with Edey that I have right now is that he's not a very good mid-range shooter, or he doesn't shoot the three-point shot very well. Now, for a ceiling, I got him like more like a Yao Ming. All right. And I'm thinking of like Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming back in the day, where Yao Ming was able to come off that pick and pop and he was able to knock down shots there. And occasionally he would be able to knock down the three ball. I think the high ceiling for him, like legendary ceiling for Edey, would be if he were able to do, say, what Wembanyama is able to do with the three-point shot, or like a Brook Lopez or a Joel Embiid, or even the Joker, being able to step out there and knock down three-point shots as well as knock down other shots other than have that post up or back to the basket game. Then I think that certainly makes Edey like a definite steal at number 11. All right. So I'm not necessarily arguing about this, but I think that if you do, or you were to do this, this means that you ship off Lavine. You also ship off Vooch as well. I think you would bring back DeMar DeRozan. In my opinion, I feel like he's the best closer, and I feel like he can help as far as distributing the basketball and getting Edey into some good situations, along with Kobe White, and also too Dosunmu, with the way that they're able to come off the screen row and get downhill. I think he's going to get a lot of easy rim runs off that and a lot of good rebounds, because DeMar DeRozan's not just jacking up 25-footers, right? So those rebounds should be short. They're not going to be long rebounds that lead to fast breaks. So I do like that. And that's kind of what they're alluding to, is that, okay, if you're going to go ahead and load up and play a little bit more of a half-court basketball game, then you wouldn't need a big like this, because there's no guarantee that Lonzo Ball is going to come back from a knee injury that nobody in sports history has come back from and be the same Lonzo Ball that we want him to be, which is more like a modern day Jason Kidd, a guy that's going out there, he's attacking the defense, he's coming at you really fast, it's a lot of herky-jerky stuff, and he's getting the basketball out quickly. Like, I'm not sure that Lonzo Ball is going to be able to do that. Now, could he be a serviceable bench player? That is a possibility. And I think if you move Lavine and you somehow, some way get somebody to take Vooch now, that opens it up for you to go out there in free agency, and maybe you pick up a guy like Malik Monk to shore up that bench. You can go out there and get some more pieces, and you also too can sign back Andre Drummond. I think that makes a lot of sense to bring him back. Now, if the Chicago Bulls don't go with Edey and they want to still go with size, I've got some suggestions here. And so one of those is going to be Donovan Clegan. All right, he was a talented big man for UConn. I thought that he showed a lot of signs coming out here as a sophomore. The one thing that I liked about him, if you looked in there, he shot a three-pointer and it didn't go down, but it looked very good. So that shows me that he has a jumper. I know that his free throw percentage is not what you want it to be right now, but that generally happens with players when they first come out and they eventually develop this. So I think he can develop this skill and be a lot better at that. That's more of a mental thing and getting locked in. I think he can do that. I think he can increase his three-point percentage. And the one thing, unlike Edey, he comes out a lot more fluid. All right. the hip movement, the footwork, it's a lot more fluid on the defensive end and the offensive end. Like, I think already this guy reminds me a little bit of kind of what a Jared Allen has or kind of what a DeAndre Ayton has. He's going to be really fluid and be able to attack downhill. And at sometimes you might be able to even give him the basketball and let him create and let him kind of do his thing. Next up, another pick that I think would make a lot of sense at 11 would be this guy. All right, so I think if you're looking at Cal Filipowski, I think that this guy reminds me of Chet Holmgren. Ironically, he would be going to OKC in this particular mock draft. But look, 7 foot, 248. This guy is a 16.4 point per score. He has 8.3 rebounds a game, 2.8 assists a game, along to go for 1.5 blocks. But the one thing that I love about him is the three-point percentage is already at 34%. I can definitely see that being a 40 to about a 45% kind of percentage. And he reminds me a little bit of a bit of a Chet Holmgren mixed with a little bit of a Laurel Markkanen. So that's why I like this potentially, because a lot of the pushback that the Chicago Bulls fans have here that we have is that we have a lot of guards on the roster. So these are a couple different options that we can go with to get some height. And lastly, I would say this: if we're going to take a chance and we want to go with a guy that's a hybrid between a small forward and a guard, I have him a lot like maybe what Wally Szczerbiak was, a more athletic kind of Kyle Korver. That's going to be Dalton Knecht. I had a chance to watch this guy in his tournament. I had a chance to watch him in the NCAA tournament as well. He dropped 37 against Purdue. The one thing that I liked about him, I think he had like about 27 to 30 dunks off the dribble. So he's a guy that if you crowd him, he will go around you and he will rack attack on you. So I love that. And I love the fact that he makes difficult shots. That is something that you need to do in the NBA. Think a lot like a Klay Thompson with the way he's able to make a lot of shots in a lot of difficult situations. That's what Dalton Knecht can do. And he also has a handle. Defensively, not the greatest, but Tennessee was not the worst defensive team out there. So I do like that. I think this is something he can get better at and stronger at. The real issue I think that we would have as Chicago Bulls fans is that he's only 6'6". All right, so you would love for him to be about 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", somewhere in there to start off to be a good small forward for us. But if we were going to go small, I think that this would be the guy that we would want, because I've thrown up the ratings before. We struggled absolutely at shooting the basketball, guys. So what do you guys think in the comments? Do you think that we should go ahead and not only trade Lavine, but also shake it up, get rid of Vooch, and bring in some size? Do you feel like Zach Edey would be our guy? Do you feel like Donovan Cleveland out of UConn would be our guy? Or do you feel like it would be perhaps the young man from Duke? Do you think that their big man would fit the role? Or do we go small here at the 11th pick in the draft? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And this is Rico Greenhowe. This is another episode of Bulls Digest, guys. And as usual, go Bulls. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.